So here we are, all packed up, ready to go to NEAF. We got a little cart to carry our 2 cargo boxes full of stuff. Just make out Joanne there, and that's our booth right there. You can buy some domes. Here's Mead. Here's Mead. It's at 85 mount. This is one of Mead's newer mounts. A lot like my old 55.
I haven't seen over.
Celestron. Here's Celestron. This is an interesting scope. This might be a good portable one for taking up to the Adirondacks. It's 9.5 inches. 9.25 inches. So here's our setup. This is another one of those 9.25. It looks like a good choice for the Adirondacks.
Oh, I'm going to be here for quite a while.
Or for traveling out west. Come on, guys, say something. I got an audio on here.
Got it.
Come on, say something.
Unfortunately, he doesn't talk in suit normally.
Oh.
His mouth doesn't move. But
yeah, so the mouth.
But yours does.
His does, but his doesn't really.
Are you on the Enterprise, the Voyager, or
no,
which
we're
one?
the USS Abraham Lincoln.
Oh, okay.
It's a ship here, based here in Rockland County. We're part of a group called Starfleet International, and and we're a non-profit organization. We do a lot of events like here. We do picnics, barbecues, movies, you name it. We work with other ships, and
we just joined them, and we normally use these for charity.
Oh, that's nice.
You know,
yeah.
my suit, money raised with mine is over $4.5 million
Yeah.
Wow.
for various charities.
Oh, that's great.
And he's just learning, so
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
you know he's got $100 and some thousand to his
Yeah,
name.
so they've become our mascots for the
Right,
ship.
that's great.
They've become our mascots. So
On the real Enterprise, you know, it's NCC 1701 or something like that.
Right, we're
you know what the NCC stands for?
Naval construction
You got it. Yeah, that's right. You got it. Naval construction.
we're NCC 71809.
Yeah.
Galaxy Class 2 vessel.
So,
Great.
all right, thank you.
Okay.
It was actually observed.
4-inch refractor is for attracting people. Plus Mandy's down there just a little ways. And here we are, right here. Our booth is right behind me. So Joanne is busy correcting her stock numbers. The 4-inch refractor, that was to attract attention. It's really not for sale unless somebody made a remarkable price. We got these rings yet, and the 80mm rind. We got the foam case. Number of rings, eyepieces, laser collimators, and some easy finders. And we got the books.
Yeah, if it's free, there's no subscription cost. Out of my pocket. Out of your pocket? Well, I started over 20 years ago on my personal journey for imaging.
This is Explorer Scientific. And I'll try to get in here to see it. There you can see an example of the boat of the belt drive on this particular mount. This is an interesting mount. Looks like this would be a good choice for a portable. This has a different setup for what effectively is releasing the clutch. There's no clutch. You actually loosen this and it pulls the worm gear off. And when you do that, the axis turn very, very smoothly. These are the astrophysics. Surprising, when the telescope rotates on the declination axis, the bottom of the declination axis does not turn.
Well, it's a really good sale on it right now.
This is a close-up view of the setup on the end of the declination axis. I can use the rotation of the weight to optically align my finder with the main tube along with the adjustments on the finder rings. I also have a setup here with this sight that allows me to align this sight with the finder and the main tube. And for the final adjustments on this sight, I can use the adjustments that come with that sight. And this works nicely because my declination axis does rotate with the main tube. There's the astrophysics, and believe it or not, when that telescope rotates, the declination axis on the bottom where the weights are does not rotate. Here's Sky Watcher. Sky and telescope. Now that's what I call binoculars.
Oh, dude, good to see you.
I've been sneaking up.
These are my favorite. Well, it's Mandy. That's Tanya. There's Scott, Lost Mandy.
Right here. These are Velcro and everything.
Explorer Scientific.
We moved away from that. Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
High Point. Explorer Scientific. Look at those beautiful Lost Mandy mounts. Beautiful. This is Explorer Scientific again. And there's those nice Lost Mandy mounts. I really like the setting circles. Very easy to adjust. Same way for right ascension. This is a beautiful mount. This is the mount that I really, really like. Setting circles. Look how easy it is to rotate them. Same way down here on the right ascension. That is a beautiful mount. Lost Mandy.
Doug, Greg, how are you?
Good, man. How are you? Good. Long time no see.
So
Beautiful
5 years
mount.
ago we started this development.
Clutch on the right ascension.
And it's basically a clean design.
Clutch on the declination.
Modern electronics. And that was part of this one.
Magnificent.
Design, hardware, firmware, some of the software. Yeah, we released it 3 years ago.
This is a StarLiner mount. It holds my 12.5-inch f8 Newtonian. I got this mount along with the scope that I put together myself back in the early 70s. What I really liked about this mount at the time, it was the best equatorial mount I could find. Before I owned the StarLiner, I had a couple of the Edmund equatorial mounts, but this is the first good one I had. And one of the things that made it really good, besides the manual drive on the declination axis and the electrical drive on the right ascension, were the setting circles for finding objects. Setting circles are very easy to use, and it has been a real joy using setting circles to find deep sky objects. In those days there were no go-to mounts. This is sort of a dinosaur mount. But I think it's nice to recognize that when people were using these mounts with the setting circles, the brains for finding the objects existed in the observers. Today, the brains for finding deep sky objects exist in the electronics of the go-to mounts. And that's fine. But it's still a lot of fun to learn how to use and to use these old style dinosaur-like setting circles of the past. Most mounts that you see today have very cheesy setting circles on them or have no setting circles at all. The one exception is the extremely beautiful Lost Mandy mounts. The StarLiner mount with these setting circles is a very nice instrument for finding deep sky objects. It's not as easy as with a go-to mount. Take for example in the summertime. I want to see the Lagoon Nebula. I'll aim my telescope, have it all set up, polar axis alignment. I'll aim it to Antares. And then I will set the coordinates on the setting circles for Antares. The clock drive will be running, and then I will just maneuver the scope so that I have the proper reading on the declination axis and the proper reading on the right ascension axis on the setting circles for the coordinates for the Lagoon Nebula. We have terrible light pollution towards the south. I live north of Philadelphia. It's harder and harder to find objects, but with the setting circles I can do it, and the light pollution is often so bad that I can't even see the Lagoon Nebula very well in the finder. Of course, in the telescope I can see it, and I do use various types of filters to improve the visibility of such deep sky objects. This is a closer view of the declination axis with the declination setting circle. This is a close-up of the right ascension setting circle. Very easy to read. Classic scopes. To find Venus in the daytime, we're going to use the sun as a reference. So we put on our solar filter, reviewing the sun. And we also have a solar filter on the finder. That makes it a lot easier for finding the sun in the eyepiece of the telescope. So we get the sun in the finder on the crosshairs, and we get it in the eyepiece. Centered in the eyepiece. It'll be our reference for finding Venus. So once we have the sun in the center of the eyepiece, we set the coordinates for the sun on the right ascension setting circle and on the declination setting circle. Next, we will move the scope manually so that the coordinates for Venus are on the setting circles. We can now remove the solar filter on both the finder and the main tube. With the coordinates set for Venus on the right ascension and declination setting circles, and being far enough away from the sun, we can safely remove the solar filter. From the main tube and also from the finder, we look through the finder and there is Venus, and then we maneuver the scope a little bit to get the crosshairs right on Venus, and then we can go and look at Venus through the main tube. Okay, we're going to see if we can see Venus in the eyepiece. And there it is, the little white dot. Venus is about 10.7 arc seconds across. It's about 1.5 AU from the Earth. It's about 22.5 degrees away from the sun. Okay. Well, this is towards the end of the day of the second day. And you can see a lot of things are now no longer there.